Welcome back, everybody, and today's video is going to be teaching you how to deal with just yet another 3 heroes in Dota to make sure that you guys will never lose to these heroes again. So we're going to go ahead and lead off with Bloodseeker. First and foremost, Bloodseeker was one of the heroes responsible for the meme of just TP, which means that when you're in trouble, just TP out. And it particularly works very well against Bloodseeker because his most signature spell is Rupture, which punishes you for moving. So when we look at his best and worst matchups, we'll generally see heroes that are able to stand still when they get ruptured, and heroes that rely heavily on walking around and suffer immensely when they are ruptured. Now, heroes that he's worse versus are heroes that have no problem standing still, or they help their teammates stand still. Nature's Prophet can just TP out. When we looked at most of his matchups, I'd say it is carries, because it is single target physical damage, or just burst damage in general, that helps deal with Bloodseeker. So you can also have good lockdown from the likes of Shaman and Lion, if we're talking about supports, and we can talk about mid laners like Storm and Ember that can move freely without getting damaged by Rupture. So the thing about Bloodseeker is he's kind of a god for like the first 10 minutes in the laning phase, and then he hits this period where before he gets BKB, he's gankable, so he doesn't tend to like to show on lanes anymore. So if you're playing Bloodseeker, oftentimes you're not hitting buildings, you're showing on creep waves only if you feel perfectly safe. He has a ton of attack speed from his Blood Rage, and then he gets a bunch of movement speed with his Thirst, but he needs to be able to be full HP and run in for all that to work. The hero wants the rest of his team to go in first, or he wants to cautiously initiate with his Rupture and then wait for things to happen. He wants his Thirst to go off, and the only time that really changes is maybe if he gets like a Blink Dagger, or he has a lot of damage items where he can reliably use somebody else on his team stunning and just kill the guy immediately. Bloodseeker is pretty good against ranged carries because of the fact that he can buy Maelstrom, Basher, Blink, and blink on top of people with plenty of damage in order to kill them. I think you can equally deal with Bloodseeker both ways in this regard. I think his counter list kind of shows that. Some of the heroes that are really good against him, like Medusa and Lifestealer, just don't die to Rupture. So that's one way of dealing with Bloodseeker. The thing about Bloodseeker is, other than BKB, he doesn't really have a way to defend himself. So as long as you can deal enough damage from like Omni Slash or Fury Swipes from Ursa or Chronosphere from Void, the survivable menace that is this BKB Bloodseeker is just not so scary anymore. This hero, really strong in lane, weaker from like 10 to 15 minutes until BKB, then he hits this huge power spike, and then he tends to fall off as the game goes longer because he's heavily reliant on BKB. He does have a shard that gives him percent-based heal and damage, but for the most part, it is the fact that you are getting ruptured still. And this hero is a bit underwhelming as his BKB goes down in duration, but also because there's no amount of other items he can buy to keep him alive that limits his damage output. Even if you go like Lincoln Spheres and Mantas, generally speaking, Bloodseeker will have a tough time hitting compared to a lot of other carries unless he is actually BKB'd. So it's all about prolonging the fights against Bloodseeker, surviving the duration of his Rupture, and kiting his BKB. That literally boils down to invulnerability spells like Voodoo Switcheroo from Witch Doctor, as well as Time Walk from Void, but also having heroes that don't mind just TPing out like Nature's Prophet, or just standing still like Medusa. Next up, we got ourselves Bounty Hunter. When we think about Bounty Hunter, his signature spell is Track. He is a hero that supplies gold to himself and his team based on kills. This hero basically tilts the balance of how much gold you get from farming creeps and farming heroes. And so against Bounty Hunter, it's crucial to know that giving him any kills, even on a support hero, is incredibly detrimental because it gives the enemy team so much more gold than they would normally get. When we look first and foremost, we think of Track giving gold, but it also detects you. So 4 or 5 of these top heroes are invis heroes. A lot of heroes that rely on slows or have unreliable stuns. And that is not only because Bounty Hunter tracks you so he can see you, but also because he runs really fast with Track. And since Bounty Hunter is so reliant on Track, we're going to see a common trend amongst pretty much all of the heroes in the worst versus section, which is built-in dispels or illusion heroes because they are multi-targeted. I would say Bounty Hunter is mainly countered in the carry role. I'd say that it's all whether or not he can hunt the carry down while farming. Bounty Hunter is kind of a grief hero, meaning that he griefs the enemy carry. He follows around, yoinking your gold, hunting you down. So even though he does prey a lot on supports for that track gold, having a carry that is not a liability to their team, because carries like to play alone in the early to mid game, farming up, getting their items, is super important. He is an off-map hero by definition. If he's played core for the first like 10 minutes, he likes to just sit in lane and say, I dare you to walk up, I'm going to yoink you. But after that, he's just off-map, and you basically have to assume that any enemy hero has a bounty hunter with them, and that you're going to get tracked, and they will be able to find you. So it's the information game that he operates on, and that's super important to remember. Generally speaking, bounty hunter does not like to hard commit. He likes to get multiple tracks off. A lot of core bounty hunters go for the Ags. A lot of support bounty hunters are not tanky enough to walk in. So most of the time, bounty hunter likes to sit on the outside, tracking people, chucking shurikens at you, because his shuriken does bounce from target to target when people are tracked. So the dispels, making it so track does not have its effectiveness, and then the ability to actually kill the bounty hunter. So even though we talked about dispels being really good against him, the reason why the likes of like Naga and CK, who do have built-in dispels, same with Slark, is that not only do they have the dispels, but they also have a way to get the bounty hunter. All of these spells very good against mobility. He's heavily reliant on like the 10 to 20 minute mark. He wants to have space on the map. He wants to come out of the lane with the ability to walk around hunting you, because he doesn't have to be farming that much to win the game as long as you are not farming. Because if both teams are killing each other, both teams are fighting, and not many creeps are getting hit on the map, bounty hunter's team will always prevail with that track gold. So really thinking about his power spike, not as much about like having specific power spikes, but that 10 to 20 minute mark is super important for success for him in order to secure like that mid-game gold lead, that he can create more gold out of these skirmishes than like any other hero in the game. This hero generally, at the least at my bracket, he will buy aura items, he will buy utility items, he'll buy like sheep stick to stun people, he's going to buy like greaves or drums or AC plus a BKB. He'll buy pipes, he'll buy all these items because the weakness of bounty hunter is that he has no team fight, absolutely no team fight. So he has multiple ways of scaling, but they're all around giving him the ability to contribute more to fights. So it's like the Ags Octarine way to scale, the way to like scout and then pop BKB so the opponent doesn't kill you, and then also just buying aura items. It comes down to dispels and also the ability to 5-man. So objective takers are also really annoying for bounty hunter because he doesn't want 5v5s. He wants skirmishes where he's going to pick you off one by one and turn that into gold. He doesn't care about actually getting the 5v5 team fight, because generally if the enemy is set up just hitting buildings, that's the hardest time to sneak around them, use invis to his advantage, and then even if they're tracked, if you can't go on them, that's one of his worst nightmares. Next up, we got ourselves Brewmaster. Monkeys Forever will hate us for creating this camera video. So when we look at his best and worst versus, he's generally going to be very good against all summons and illusion heroes because his Wind Panda can dispel and basically kill all summons and illusions in one hit. He's also very good against heroes that rely on longer fights because Brewmaster being able to get his split off is the most important part about Brewmaster. So heroes that rely on long fights but also hard commit for those fights are generally very bad against Brewmaster. Now, heroes that Brewmaster has a lot of issues with are heroes that have a ton of AoE physical damage to just kill the Brewlings, such as Death Prophet. You'll even see Clinks on there and Sven. But then also heroes with a ton of mobility and burst, because it's all about finding the Brewmaster and killing him immediately. So even if he pops a split, heroes like Weaver, Anti-Mage, Slark, Lifestealer can simply just walk away and disengage potential. So his most signature spell, absolutely the Brew Split. All of his matchups, good and bad, are determined by whether or not he's able to get his split off and how effective it is for him to lock you down and use the entire duration of that Brew Split, because outside of his split, Brewmaster is a relatively underwhelming hero. I would generally lean towards mainly carries. I think this hero is very weak in lane. He's predominantly played as an offlaner or a builder, teamfight utility type hero, and what makes him have the, I'd say, less success in pubs than he should is that his laning stage is vulnerable, and heroes that are good against slows and have built-in dispels are just super strong against him. So overall magic immunity plus Weaver. Brewmaster tends to walk down lanes a lot. He basically says, I'm going to show on this wave, I'm going to allow my team to rotate towards me, and I am going to get gone on and pop my split. Or at least not be burstable, in the sense that maybe he won't get gone on because the opponent doesn't feel comfortable killing him before he gets that split off. Just that. He will generally walk it. That is his job. He is information gathering, initiation in the form of walking in. And a lot of times the decision to be made as Brewmaster when you're playing him is, do I have the ulti right away? Or how long can I hold my ultimate in order to basically prolong the power spike of his entire team in the fight such that he can win a longer fight against the likes of heroes like Razor that we talked about that he's good against. You absolutely counter Brewmaster by killing him rather than him not killing you. The carries will generally be very survivable against Brewmaster, but it's pretty difficult to disengage as a team against the Brewmaster split. So definitely the best way to deal with Brew is to have Orchids, Sheepsticks, or just Stun and First in general on your team to prevent him from casting his ultimate. But it's absolutely crucial that you are concerned about that Aeon Disc timing or items like BKB on Brewmaster, that items like this that significantly decrease the potency of your initiation. And the worst thing imaginable against Brewmaster is to use a bunch of spells on him, and then when he's less than like 25% HP, he barely survives and pops his ultimate, because he's basically two different heroes at that point. So you use all your spells and damage, and effectively did nothing. We kind of think of it as that first split is a super huge power spike for him, and then a lot of Brewmasters nowadays are going for that Ag Scepter that gives them more uptime with one of their pandas. That's a pretty big power spike. And then anytime he gets either Refresher or items like Aeon Disc and BKB that allow him to reliably use his ultimate either multiple times or at least the first time. I would say it really is the utility of his ultimate. Whether his Earth Panda is able to siege buildings, whether his Wind Panda is able to clear a bunch of summons or throw somebody up in the air. The big thing about the Wind Panda is that throwing tanky people that are previously unburstable and hero you don't want to deal with, the likes of Medusa, Bristleback, Viper, he's really great at scaling against those, because in fights, he can just chuck them up in the air and ignore them. And heroes that have issues forcing people to deal with them are going to struggle against Brewmaster as the game goes on. So he safely secures objectives in the mid to late game because he doesn't have to use his real hero with the Earth Panda, and then he also is just a teamfight master at every stage of the game. It really boils down to not really planning to deal with his split. It's like once he splits, it's like, okay, we're almost certainly running away. Unless you can BKB and kill the Brewlings on a hero like Spin or Death Prophet, but in general, you're just gonna have to run away. So items like Force Staffs, Glimmers, just general disengage will go a long way in helping you scale against Brewmaster. So that concludes our video today for how to counter these next 3 heroes. Once again, I'll be back next week with another 3. Make sure you check out the playlist if you have missed any of them so far and you're having particular issues with anybody in the A's and B's. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Like, comment, subscribe.